Have you ever noticed that the highest paid remote jobs are often the most boring? To be honest, you probably haven't, as most people only talk about the flashy ways to make money online. However, they often ignore the ones that aren't considered cool. But the problem with cool remote jobs is that the competition is sky high, whereas the ones that aren't as popular are almost always hiring because people don't even know they exist. You see, I made my millions in the radio control model industry, as well as investing in the stock market. Many people would consider that pretty boring. So I'm living proof that boring and sometimes even nerdy jobs pay extremely well. That's why today I'm going to be revealing a service coordinator. Have you ever been on a website and needed some help only to be directed to an AI bot and just frantically typed in, talk to a human? Well, if you choose to become a customer service coordinator, then you'll become the human on the other end. Think of it like being a middleman between bots and customers. As far as earning power goes, Indeed.com puts this between $52,000 and $120,000 per year. However, it is dependent on where the companies you work for are based and what they're selling. So let's go with a more conservative estimate of $65,000. This one is pretty beginner friendly because all you need are some great communication skills, a knack for problem solving, and a little bit of patience to understand the business you're working for. That's why it gets a solid 8 out of 10. Now, growth is where the potential of this job really shines. Every business, big or small, needs customer service, but not every company has the budget or time to hire a whole team. So this job really fills that hole. By having one person manage the bots and only step in when things go wrong, it means that it's far more efficient than bringing in, say, 5 or 10 support agents. So for these reasons, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. On to survivability. AI can handle the basics like password resets, order tracking, and frequently asked questions really well. But as soon as things get personal or emotional, it all falls flat. In fact, about 69% of UK customers say chatbots miss tone and frustration. So could this change in the future? Probably, but there's no telling how long. What I can say is that there's lots of money to be made in this right now. So I'm ranking it 7.5 out of 10 in this category. Now it's time for that all-important freedom factor. To be honest, once the bots are set up and tuned, you can work from home, a coffee shop, or even a weekend getaway, as long as you're available to jump in when things go sideways. So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Funeral sales specialist. A lot of people aren't going to like this one as it's quite morbid, but the pay is far from it. This job is all about giving families peace of mind by helping them plan ahead and protect their loved ones from future stress. So let's get into earning power. You'll start at around $75,000 a year. This is the average for pre-need funeral sales reps in the US, and top performers regularly break $90,000 to $100,000, with some hitting over $106,000 when they crush targets. So this is the highest paying job we've had so far. But how easy is it for beginners to get started? Well, there are no real qualifications needed here. I guess some sales experience would be useful, but it's not 100% needed. I'd say it's more about your empathy, confidence, and the ability to navigate emotional conversations. Because of this, I'm going to give it a beginner's score of 7 out of 10. But what about growth potential? Well, unfortunately, we're all going to die someday, and funerals aren't going out of style anytime soon. In fact, I remember reading in the Washington Post that there are now more deaths than births in most US counties, showing that the demand for end-of-life planning is only going up. Look, funerals aren't cheap. The average one costs $8,300, and if you add extras, the total can rise to nearly $10,000. So with the amount of deaths going up due to aging populations, this means that so much money is going to be spent on funerals. So growth has to be 9.5 out of 10. Another benefit of this job is that it's pretty AI proof. There's no tech about right now that can actually comfort a grieving person, not in the way an actual human being can. It hasn't lived, so how can it possibly understand death? The human connection is just something technology can't replicate. So for survivability, I'm going to rank it a 10 out of 10. Now, lastly, let's talk about freedom. Although this is a remote job, there are far more time restrictions than the other jobs we've covered so far. It's not exactly a 9-to-5 clock-in corporate job, but it also doesn't give you the full-on digital nomad lifestyle. When it comes to freedom, there's a mental aspect too. And with this job, there's a lot of emotional weight you have to carry. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Now let's see how it stacks up against our current leader. Okay, wow, it's actually taken the lead in earning power and survivability. So let's see if the next one can win any categories. is a remote setter. Have you ever seen those influencers making thousands a month selling courses or coaching? They all need one thing more than anything else: someone like you to fill their calendar. That's what a remote setter does. They slide into the DMs, ask the right questions, figure out if someone's a good fit, and then pass them to the closer to seal the deal. So if you've ever been told you talk too much, then congrats, because that skill might finally pay off. The earning power for this one is anywhere between $3,000 and $7,000 per month. And if you're hitting targets consistently, you can scale up to $84,000 a year without closing a single deal yourself. Because you're not actually being pushy and trying to close the deal, it's pretty beginner friendly, and a lot of companies will train you up. That's why I'm giving this one a score of 9 out of 10. Now let's look at growth potential. Since most companies use commission-based models, if you're good, your income can grow just as fast as the business. So for that reason, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. So pretty good so far, but how AI proof is it? Overall, this job is all about connection, trust, and timing. AI is just not there yet. So I'm giving this a survivability rating of 8.5 out of 10. As for freedom, this is where it gets interesting. Most setter jobs are remote, which is great, but they're not exactly passive. You'll be tied to your inbox throughout the day, especially during launch periods or campaigns. You're free from the office, but not from your phone. So while there's no commute, I'd say freedom lands at a 7 out of 10. So how does this compare against the last jobs? Well, it's definitely taken the top spot for earning potential. This is because it's a job that directly brings in money for the business and therefore has a clear return on investment for the company. They also want you to be incentivized to keep pushing and booking more calls. It's also tied in the beginner score category, so definitely a great one to start if you don't have a lot of experience.